Welcome to Writing Easy, the podcast that takes writing, which can be not so easy, and tries to make it more easy. I'm one of your hosts, Mary Mascari.
And I'm your other host, Melissa Long.
Yet again, we are joined by the hosts of the PosPop podcast. Positively Pop Culture is what it's really called, but PosPop podcast is my favorite thing to say. KW Taylor and Carrie Gessner.
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
It's great to have you here. Yeah, it's much less lonely here. Although, of course, we're not physically together because that would be bad. And I'm wearing a mask, but not on my face. Not going to tell you where, though.
I'm now very curious.
So, this week, we're going to sort of talk about, a lot of times we have authors that once we've read their stuff, we really learn a lot from. Obviously we learn from all the authors that we read, hopefully, all the things that we take in. But sometimes one comes along that you're like, yeah, I really feel like this person's kind of a mentor to me, even though you've never met them or whatever. Just their writing comes along. And Carrie, you were telling us one author in particular, Megan Whalen Turner, is someone who's really had a good influence on you.
Yes, absolutely.
So can you first of all, I have not heard of her. I don't know about her work. So can you tell us a little bit more about her?
Sure. Yeah, she's not super well known, although I believe she is originally from Ohio, which makes KW happy.
Yay!
So she has basically one book series that currently has 5 books in it. The 6th book is coming out in October, or it's supposed to come out in October. The first book actually came out when I was a kid. So I read the first book when I was in 6th grade, I think. And my mom would bring home books for me. And I remember just sitting in the basement, like, not moving, because I just could not stop reading this book.
I love that.
Yeah, it's the best kind of books when you're a kid. And she doesn't write super fast. It's been years between the books, but I've kept up with them. And each book, I think because it started and it so captured me when I was young, I learned a lot without even really realizing that I was learning about writing, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So one of the big things that I really like about her and the series is that so I guess I should name the series, shouldn't I?
Yeah, if it strikes your fancy.
So I think it's collectively called the Queen's Thief series. They're fantasy books, and I'm a fantasy writer, so that influenced me heavily. But they're set in sort of a like a ancient Mediterranean, Greekish kind of world.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that was like just right off the bat, I was like, this is kind of new for like a 12-year-old. I was used to like Lord of the Rings, and maybe not Lord of the Rings that early, but I was used to the pseudo-medieval
Europe. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So basically, the thing that I probably learned the most just growing up reading her stuff is the importance of experimentation in your fiction. So what I mean by that is the first book, The Thief, is written in first person, and it's very much about the main character, whose name is Eugenides. He goes by Jen, and he is the eponymous thief it's an adventure story. So he gets plucked out of prison to go steal this, like, it's called Hamethi's Gift. I'm pretty sure I'm not saying that correctly, but it's basically a stone that grants the power to rule a kingdom to whoever holds it. That sort of fantasy stuff. But it's
the fantasy MacGuffin.
Yeah. But it's considered a rumor in the world, or like a legend. So he gets plucked out to go steal it, basically. I was like, okay, this is a cool adventure story. Like, I'm learning about world building and various stuff. And then book 2 comes out, and it's third person. It's got differing points of view, and I'm just like, this is so different than the first one. But it really built on the political intrigue that they introduced in the first book. I think I guess maybe 2 of the best things about book 2, the first is that it really kind of defies expectation I think, through that experimentation. So something that's very integral to Jen's identity in the first book gets taken away pretty much immediately at the second, in the beginning of the second book. So she's just kind of constantly challenging your expectations and going in directions you wouldn't necessarily think she would go. And then I'm not going to go into super detail with every book, but the third book is from the point of view of a completely new character. And I was like, what's this? When I got it, I was like, this is not what I want. And then it turns out to be one of my favorite books in the series. And so each book, she kind of defies my expectations. And growing up with this experience of reading the books every few years and reading the books, most of the books before I really got into writing, I think it really just kind of showed me, hey, you don't have to do the same thing every book. You don't have to, you can use tropes, but you can turn them on their heads, and you could take characters who are, villains and give them better motivations. And it just really kind of sucked me in. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think you could see a lot of that influence in my writing. It's probably not quite as politically savvy and stuff, but yeah, I definitely think there's a through thread that you can kind of just trace back to this series. So
it's always cool to see someone breaking the rules.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that almost feels necessary when you take a long time to create a book, and there's so many years in between, like, the first book and the, like, current book in the same series. Like, you have to be able to reinvent yourself, reinvent the characters, reinvent the structure and the concept of the stories in order to, one, stay excited about it, but also to, like, maintain I don't know, like, I feel like to maintain a readership, like, to do something over that many years is very intimidating to me. I could never do that. I get very bored very quickly.
One of the things that the sense that I have is that she has a fairly small readership, but the readers that she does have are, like, super passionate. Like, I've been waiting for this book for, like, years now. And I'm just like, oh, where is it? And I think it's because she puts a lot of care and thought into the world, into the characters. And when I say that she defies expectations, it's not in a way that is just for the surprise of it. It's not to throw the reader off the scent. It's really, like, there's a twist at the end of most of the books, and when you get to it, you're like, what? It just blows your mind. But then on rereading it, you're like, oh, okay, there, she threaded it there, she threaded it there. It's just so well done. I love it.
If you were writing that way, do you think you would try to set those things up as you went, or would you decide your ending and then go back and thread those hints in later?
Geez, that's hard. I feel like she kind of has it plotted out from the beginning, and she knows, but especially because some of the twists are sort of integral to the characters. But for me, yeah, I don't start out ever with, like, that much of a plot. I'm just like, this would be interesting to write about. So I'd probably have to get to the end, or think about the end, and then go back and thread things through. Yeah.
Which is fine. That's
the Bill and Ted treatment. I do that all the time, because I always write these, like, million different plot lines. And, like at the end of Bill and Ted, where they said, oh, remember, we should put a garbage can here, and then it's there. You could do that with your story, too. So you can go back and be like, don't forget to put a garbage can in scene 1, because I'm going to need it later.
Yeah, that's what second and third and fourth and fifth drafts are for.
Oh, absolutely.
So I will take it that none of you have read her.
Not
Okay.
yet.
I definitely think that probably all of you would enjoy it. I don't know, but
it sounds like my sort of thing.
Cool. Yeah, I hope so. So from a writing perspective, I think just the things I take away from her are to not be afraid to do things differently, to do things out of the box, and to really tell the story that you want to tell.
It's so funny how and I don't know if this happens with other art forms, but I know it seems a lot in writing, where it's like oh, that's not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not, and then you see someone do it, and you're like, oh, I guess it is allowed. You know,
Yeah.
like, doesn't that seem like, why is that, like, I can't see any other, like, an artist going, well, I'm going to block paint this way. I mean, maybe not, maybe because I don't know about that art form as much, but it's so funny how we're all so rule bound. And maybe it's because of publishing being so difficult that we feel like, you know, we can't be as free because we have to, you know, be marketable, I guess.
Right.
I don't know, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I crazy? Do you think that's a common thing? Do you guys have that?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think, I can't remember who we were talking to, KW, but was it you guys? Yeah, it was you guys. It was like the adverb thing. Like, don't use adverbs, but like, it's just a stupid,
Yeah.
it's just a stupid rule. Yeah, I mean, okay, maybe it wasn't you guys. I'm sorry. I have
Yeah, I don't think so.
I have a
but
terrible
that's all right,
memory,
it's all blur.
guys.
No. I was
Yeah,
gonna
it's
say
okay.
I don't remember that, but
We'll say it was. Yeah, no, it was totally me.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
It was
Anything.
Mary.
If it was wise, it was me. Yep.
Anyway, yeah, I think it's because of the business model and that we have to be marketable.
Mhm.
Like, you see stuff out there all the time that's like, here are rules for writing, when there really, I mean, there really aren't any except tell a good story. And I think one of the things that helped me with absorb those lessons was I read a lot of these books in the series before I really understood that people think there are writing rules.
Mhm.
So
You didn't know there weren't.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then people tried to tell me there were, and I was like, no.
Yeah, but this.
I
But
sorta-
see, look, I read this and it was awesome. So you're wrong.
I sort of have a theory about how some of these things get established. And this isn't about fantasy writing, but in romance writing, there's like 8 points in the plot that you kind of always are expected to have if you want to make it a very popular style of romance novel writing. And I think that a lot of those 8 points got established with the first few successful novels that were recognized as romance, and then they just get emulated and they work and people like them, and that's fine. But then the books that get sort of breakout status outside of just the romance genre itself are the ones that end up either defying those 8 points, or they somehow subvert them in an interesting way, or they do something different, either throwing them out the window entirely or bending them or something. So when you're trying to be really successful within a specific genre, you've got to decide, do I want to write the best version of how the genre is currently defined, or do I want to do something that breaks it out of that mold? And both approaches are fine, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that there aren't guidelines or expectations, because if you want to read a romance, you want it to end happily. That's what you expect as a reader. But I think just as a writer, it really helps me to know, okay, maybe this is the established thing that I can do, but I'm just going to throw that out the window. Like, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between genre expectations and reader expectations and rules that you must follow, or you will be murdered by the genre police. And that, you know, and those can really tie you down because you want to do it right, you know. And also, I think as writers, we tend to be, you know, we were probably good students usually, and so we're used to succeeding in a certain framework where, you know, we follow the rules and you get the reward, and that's how it goes. And so we've been kind of trained to that a little bit, I
Yeah.
think, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
That might be some of it too. But I if nothing else comes from this podcast, it's to say, you know, you have to write your own story your own way. As long as it's interesting, as long as you keep the reader hooked in and people want to keep reading, as long as they're not bored,
Yeah.
good.
Like KW said, if the story you want to write is the best romance that you think you can write, awesome. People are going to love it. But don't write it just because you think you should.
Yeah. Yeah, should is ridiculous.
I think the next big genre is going to be boring, though, honestly.
What?
I think the next big genre is boring fiction where nothing happens because it's comforting. I have a theory.
Yeah, no, you know what? Last night we watched My Neighbor Totoro, and I admittedly hadn't seen it before. And, you know, there isn't really any long-term conflict. I mean, yeah, May gets lost, right? That's the problem. Now, it's not May gets lost and there's monsters out there. It's a little 4-year-old out by herself, right? And that's really the only trauma, like the only danger. It's mostly just these girls trying to figure out what's going on. And it's delightful, right? It's the most wonderful movie. I love it. And it's because it's not about the plot, but you can still engage people.
Yeah.
Right? It's about the world and the beautiful artwork and the cool things that happen and the little discoveries and the funness of everything. So I guess what I'm saying is that, yeah, maybe boring might be a thing. Because I know I get upset if a thing is too tense,
Yeah.
too scared. I don't like
Yeah.
it. They're like, oh no, we're gonna torture these characters. Like, I don't want to see characters tortured. So I stopped reading Game of Thrones because I was like, this is awful. Yes, it's tense and it's exciting, but like, can we chill out a little bit? So yeah, no, you know what? Yeah.
Maybe the word would be, instead of saying boring, that it still has to be compelling in a way, but it doesn't mean that a whole lot even has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It has to
Yeah.
make you want to read it or watch it or listen to it, but the reason why you're doing that could be just for comfort or insight or whatever. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Compelling. Yeah.
Isn't that just mainstream literature?
Comfort fiction.
Oh, snap.
No, it's not. But I think actually been thinking about this a lot too, because a lot of times we talk, and especially in school, we talked about conflict, and I feel like that really gets conflated into like physical violence or just like very harsh conflict, even if it's verbal or just whatever. And sometimes, yeah, it's like a little girl getting lost, and there's not super immediate danger, but you get to explore this world. I haven't seen that movie, so if I got that wrong,
Yeah. You have to see it because it's
I do have to see it,
delightful.
yeah.
But yes, we've been doing Ghibli movies every week.
nice.
We're buying them. It's stupid expensive, but we don't care because they're just lovely. But yeah, you don't have to have it, rah rah rah, boom 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 all the time, as long as it's. But usually when they aren't rah rah rah, boom boom boom, there's usually the language is beautiful, the descriptions are beautiful. So you have to do something in there. But that's if that's what you're called to do, then go for it. There's no rules.
Yeah.
I work with college students, and a couple years ago they taught me the phrase "you do you," which I love. And if that's my only writing advice, you do you. Maybe also read in your genre, but
You do you is important because that's the thing that's going to sell you. I have a tweet that I've saved somewhere, a quote of someone saying like, yeah, that's great that you can do that thing right and well, but I've got 10 other people who do the same thing. What I don't have is someone who can do it your way.
and it's not even about selling necessarily. It's about
No.
enjoying the writing. Because if you don't enjoy writing, why are you doing it?
Yeah, because otherwise it's really painful. Yeah, and if you follow the rules right, it doesn't mean that you win. Because it's kind of like falling in love. When you read a book, it's like falling in love. And it kind of reminds me of these douchey guys who were like, but I'm a nice guy. I did this thing. How come I can't get a girlfriend? It's like, well, because that's not what it's about. It's not about follow rules and this happens. Obviously it's not quite the same level, but it's that same idea of like you think, well, I follow the rules of book and now I win book. It's like, no, you don't win book.
I've never heard it quite described that way.
I know. I'm sorry. Yeah.
But I'm going to put it on a t-shirt.
Good. Yeah, my metaphors are always kind of bizarre, so I apologize. Well, this is really cool stuff. Not only have I found a new author to go start
I
reading,
hope you like her.
we had a really great conversation about, going your own way. And if we had the money, I'd play that song at the end of the episode. But I'm not going to. So everyone just kind of hum it to yourself in your head.
Yeah, we can't even sing it. We don't.
You know it. You don't need me to play it. You know what it is. So, KW and Carrie, where can we see your stuff? How can people find more of the awesomeness that is you?
My stuff is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any bookstore that you want to go through, under my full name, Carrie Gessner. They're available in print and ebook. And then if you want to connect with me, I have a website, carriegessner.com, and I am sometimes on Twitter at Carrie Gessner.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Come and go.
Mm-hmm.
And then the PosPop podcast is also wherever you
every
get
Wednesday.
podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Every Wednesday. Excellent. Well, thank you both so much for coming. This has been an absolute delight.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
So I guess we'll just end with our usual catchphrase. Remember, everyone, writing is hard.
So take it easy.
I'm Mary.
And I'm Melissa.
And you guys go now.
Who's going first? I'm and I'm Carrie.
And I'm KW.
And we're grown-ups.